we just want to run through what happens with the framework, the unit testing framework, when we run all the tests through the test coordinator. Now, this is the concrete implementation of a test coordinator I have for the hardware abstraction framework, and it currently shows the results of the tests that we ran in a previous video. So if we look at what actually happens, I've just overridden the parent implementation of this class, because I don't need my own UI for it. I'm quite happy with what I've already established. So what's actually happening when we run this is that the test suites are initialized. Basically, we tell it which test suites we want to run. So let's have a quick look at that. That's in here. So it's just a collection of all the test suites, and if you looked through all of these folders, you'd find that these are all set up, and we're just building that into an array to so for the framework to run through. It then takes those test suites, and for every test suite it asks it to run the tests, and once the tests are run, we build the results to display on the screen. If we look at here, then there's another framework method. In fact, anything with a green banner on is part of the unit testing framework and isn't code that you need to change. So here we're in a test suite for the test coordinators. Just like the test coordinators, it will initialize the tests, and you can see them here. Let's just have a look at this one here for executables, and it's just the unit tests are stored in a collection that will be run through by this test suite. So exactly the same type of approach as the test coordinator. So we initialize the tests, and for every test to run, we run the test, and then we build the results, and the results are stored within the test itself. So far so good. It's very similar. And run test in the test suite, and in a specific test, we set it up, add in any code to create any dummy data that we need to run the test. We run all tests, and then we tear it down, get rid of any of that dummy data. So let's run all tests, and let's have a look at say add executable test. So this is a concrete test unit test that we'll run, and this isn't a framework method. You can see it's not quite got a green banner on there. This is my own implementation, and in this one we are running a test called add executable and a test called add executable at index test. So any unit test could actually run more than one actual test that are typically I've set it up to use them so that where they're related, I just have them in one unit test. So add executable, we take this code here is essentially the code under test. So we want to take a write executable and add it to the executable director, and when we read it back out again, what we hope is that it has actually read it. So we set up a actual result, and this is the array, the number of entries, and the expected result is essentially 1 because we only added one executable in. We have a variant version of that. A variant is effectively a container for any particular data type that LabVIEW NXG knows about, and we also have a string version of that. And these are used for both formatting result strings as well as doing the actual comparison within the asserter. So we set up an expected value and an actual value, and here we have some information about the unit test that's being executed, as well as a sort of test ID which will appear in the UI. And these are all passed along, and here's the asserter. We want to assert that they're equal, and those are all passed into a framework method called process result. And process result takes that, asserts the expected and actual results, and whether it passes, fails, and a detailed message that indicates if it's a failure what's gone wrong, and we add that as a result back onto the test itself. And an asserter, just an example, we used equal. It takes the expected result and the actual result and just compares that those values are equal, and then builds a message accordingly. So if they are equal, then it's fine, it's a standard pass message. If it's a failure, then you'll get a message based on the string that you pass here. These are substitution values, so it'll substitute the expected value and the actual value into the message. And adding result just takes some of the information we passed in to the test and builds a results structure to store on the test itself, and the test suite, we can use that and pull that out in order to display on the UI. All of this is framework method, and you need to do very little in terms of the underlying functionality. This is an example of a test implementation, so this is equivalent to the code that you would write to create a unit test. So it's not particularly complicated. There's a lot of assertions available. We can see this. Here's a link to our unit testing framework itself, and you can see there's quite a few assertions that are available, and it's easy enough to create your own if there's one there that if there's one there that isn't suitable for what you need. Okay, so that was just a quick run through of the framework, and I'm hoping it's coupled with the description in the post, it gives you a good flavour for what's going on.